Hey everyone, Stacks here, and today I'm doing something a little different. Today I want to talk about X-Men, and I want to talk about X-Men since House of X and Powers of X. Jonathan Hickman comes out swinging, hits an absolute grand slam for Marvel as a whole. Marvel is actually surprised by the success of this, doesn't understand it, and to be honest, I don't think the fans were ready for House of X and Powers of X and resetting the X-Men universe. And the reason I say that is because we're coming off basically some excitement. Uncanny X-Men came back, and about issue 12 or something, it got really good. And then we felt like we had the rug ripped out from under us because they suddenly switched to this Age of X-Men. We're told that Uncanny was going to be canceled. We knew that Age of X-Men is going to be canceled, and we're going into this reset. So Hickman had an uphill climb when it came to launching this new status quo for X-Men. Well, real quickly, we get into House of X and Powers of X, and once the Moira McTaggart thing hits, and we have this completely new and reimagining of all of the X-Men universe, everybody was on board. It was the hottest thing in the summer of 2019. By far, nothing even came close to House of X as far as hype. Not only hype though, quality of product. Jonathan Hickman, a good writer, good dialogue, good characterizations, good art. R.B. Silva and Pepe Larraz, they absolutely killed it. The book, the story, it was all very high quality, and high quality drew people back to the story. It drew people back to X-Men. It drew people in that hadn't been in the comic book shop for years because they heard that something amazing was going on, and it was. We had 12 of the most incredible issues of comic books in a long time, and I am still a huge fan of Powers of X and House of X. Anytime I see House of X number 4, the issue where Wolverine goes down into the sun, taking out the mother mold, I pick it up because that's my absolute favorite comic book that I can remember in the last 10-15 years. So then we finish House of X and we move into these Dawn of X titles. We have X-Men, the main X-Men title. We have X-Force, we have Marauders, we have Excalibur, we have New Mutants, and we have Fallen Angels. 6 titles right out the gate. And everybody kind of goes, this could be interesting. But then you start hearing the premise for some of the books, and you're like, okay, that sounds cool. X-Force is basically like the CIA portion of it. New Mutants is going to be a break off into the Shi'ar Empire. You have Excalibur going into Otherworld and exploring that. You have Marauders, which was kind of the one everybody raised their eyebrows about. And then, but when they lay it out that they're going to be basically this black market going into countries, taking the Krakoan drugs in and sneaking mutants out, everybody's like, you know what? That sounds pretty cool. I'll give it a shot. But now, depending who you talk to would probably gauge what success came forward with each title. X-Men was pretty well accepted, the first and second issues, and then the third issue had the Golden Girls show up and beat the heck out of Sebastian Shaw, Cyclops, and Emma Frost, and everybody was kind of like, "What the heck?" I thought they were kind of funny, and I didn't think it was just a straight up butt kicking. They just caught Cyclops slipping, basically. He let down his guard, he got whatever, that doesn't really matter. But and then number 4 hit. It was a lot of it's basically once again world building. It was them at that World Summit, and it's been delayed a couple times. So X-Men has been positive so far. I would still consider it a title I'm not even considering dropping at this point. X-Force has been by far my favorite title. I think it has been absolutely amazing. Benjamin Percy and Joshua Cassara have delivered a book that's exciting. It's got these amazing cliffhangers. It looks like a real threat against the X-Men, these humans that are scientifically and sacrificially willing to go so far against the mutants that they're not scared to take the next step with science, with genetics, whatever it takes to defeat the mutants. I would say those are your 2 top tier ones. Those are the ones that have no in my mind, they're going to stay on the pull list. Then you kind of get into the other tier. You have Marauders. Marauders came out, okay. The first one wasn't bad. There kind of some issues with Kitty Pryde, Kate Pryde, whatever you want to call her. And the way she's been portrayed in this, they've completely kind of swung her to this alcoholic, whatever. But after issue 2, I was ready to drop it. I picked up 3 though. I stayed with it, and I think it's gotten consistently better. You got 2 Omega level mutants on there that are getting punked all the time, and every time you turn around, it's like, oh, we got mutant power dampeners. You're in trouble again. You're just some dude. But the book is getting better, and Jerry Dugan's writing that, and the art's been really good on it. So I'm gonna keep Marauders for now. I don't know that I could say that for Excalibur. Excalibur, there's no issue with the art there, but Teenie Howard on the writing is just, it's hard to follow. It is not a good read. The dialogue's bad. The characterizations are bad. You compare that Apocalypse to the Apocalypse over in X-Men, and it's not even like the same dude. Gambit has been I don't even want to go into what's happened to him in this. It's just sad. I don't really enjoy the book at this point. I wanted to stay with it through number 6, which I guess I'm going to pick up number 6 and review it. But that may be my jumping off point, and I hate that because Excalibur, in my opinion, had a lot of potential, especially with the squad they put together for it. Fallen Angels for me was I like the story. I like Brian Edward Hill as a writer. However, I do not like the art in this book. There's some places where it just doesn't. I don't know if he's using 3D models or what, but they just don't like the position that the character is in. You're like, what is the person doing? This doesn't make any sense. So I like the idea of this overclock device and what that can mean. It ties into the technology that humans taking that forward. Honestly, I think I only read up to 3 so far. I have 4. I think I have 5. I don't know. I have all the issues. I've purchased them. I haven't read them. I fell behind on it and just haven't gotten to it yet. And that's kind of stinks. And honestly, the biggest detractor there is the art. And then there's New Mutants, which New Mutants is fine. It's a good story when it's in space, but you had 2 issues of filler there with running around fighting hillbillies or something, and it really killed the title. And you got to remember, all these titles are coming out twice a month, and it's pushing it. There's no reason that you should be having to do, if you can't keep up the pace on it, don't do these filler issues. You know what? House of X and Powers of X managed to do 12 weeks in a row. 12 weeks in a row, and it was absolutely fabulous. It's okay to take a week off when you have these other titles. It's okay that this last week we had was the first time without an X title in a while. That's okay. I mean, I've been doing some looking, and it's, the next new comic book day is 22 January. 2 X titles. 29 January, 3 X titles. 2 X titles. 4 X titles. 2 X titles. 3 X titles. It just keeps going, and it's okay to slow it down. But that's not the way that Marvel's going with this. It's hey, we have 5 titles because Fallen Angels is falling off, but we're going to replace that because we've already announced that we're going to have giant-sized X-Men Magneto and giant-sized X-Men Nightcrawler. We're going to have an X-Factor book by Leah Williams. And that one's going to focus around the 5 and resurrection protocols and all that stuff. They've announced Children of the Atom by Vita Ayala, which is going to focus on, I don't know, who are these people? It's female Cyclops, female Gambit, and who cares? What is this? Jonathan Hickman came out and said it's all about having a X title that everyone can enjoy. How about you focus on the people who made House of X and Powers of X successful? And the reason they came back for that wasn't because of all these new characters you were making. It was because you took the X-Men, you took those characters that we know and love, you wrote them in character, you did something new and exciting with them that was high stakes. It was thrilling, it was creative, it created discussion, and it had a good writer, and it had 2 good artists that were supporting it. It was not 17 titles, watered down storyline that has gotten to the point where it's complete gibberish and complete trash. And I'm naming new titles here still. You got the Wolverine book that's coming out. You got Wolverine coming out February 19th. It's going to be an $8 book. You're going to have an $8 Wolverine #1. Of course they're going to charge $8 for a Wolverine #1 because they know you'll buy it. I'll buy it. I'm going to pick it up, honestly. But it's frustrating that I'm going to have to spend $8 for a book, and I'm already picking up all these other X titles. You have 4X, the X-Men Fantastic Four event. It's going to be 4 issues written by Chip Zdarsky. I'm excited to get Chip Zdarsky on an X-Men title because I really like Chip Zdarsky. He's a good writer. This event's going to focus around Franklin Richards and his decision. It's going to insert Doctor Doom into this X-Men discussion. But okay, it's another title. Granted, that's one I can actually get excited about because it's got a good writer and it sounds like it's probably going to be a good and interesting storyline. You have X-Corps that's floating out there. It's going to be featuring Storm. I think that was Leia Williams, or it was, I don't remember. There's going to be a Moira McTaggart book. They've already promised an X-Men crossover event that was going to include tie-ins across Marvel in December. So they're continuing to water this down to the point where you're going to get diminishing returns on this. You're already seeing the sales on these books drop. You go check my comment section alone, and you'll see a bunch of people who, yep, I just dropped this title. Yep, I dropped this title. I'm only picking up these 2 now because I can't keep up with all these X titles. Which that goes back to what was so wrong with Jonathan Hickman's statement, is there are not an infinite amount of X fans out there. There aren't. You are going to go back to having titles selling 10,000 a piece because you are going to water this down to the point where people who actually go buy comic books aren't going to be picking them up anymore. Especially if you start or continue to put, bottom tier to lower mid tier writers and artists on these things. You've got to bring back the talent. You've got to bring back what made House of X, Powers of X successful. You've got to go back and key on that. You really do. You got to take a hard look at yourself, Marvel, and ask, what are we doing here? Slow it down, pump the brakes. You can extend this out over however long you want to. You don't have to rush to failure. Something that makes this so much worse is that you have Chris Claremont out there. You have Chris Claremont sitting on the bench. He is working exactly 0 titles right now. He is on a guaranteed contract from Marvel, and he is sitting on the beach drinking pina coladas, not doing anything as far as writing for Marvel. Hand him an X title. Give him something. Tell him it's his. Give him the left-right limits, whatever you got to do. But give him something. The guy knows X-Men. He knows X-Men better than anyone. He is the guy that made X-Men. He was on it for 16 years? He's the dude that needs to at least give him 1 title. I guarantee just off name recognition alone, the first 6 books would outsell at least half of these other X books, if not all of them. But anyways, guys, I'm not trying to be a big negative Nelly on this. I am actually still very cautiously optimistic about the X-Men franchise at Marvel Comics right now going forward. Marvel can't get out of its own way, and it's very frustrating for people who actually are out there, buying the books, picking them up on a regular basis, and enjoying them. But when you take something that you had such a great success with in House of X and Powers of X, and then you slowly just dilute it to the point where it's nearly unrecognizable. It's very frustrating. And I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I will take a chance on picking up a book. But when you start seeing writers that you've seen, in the past and you didn't like them, and you're like, well, they're on an X title now, so at least give them a shot. And you're like, okay, maybe they're going to have a better editor this time. Maybe they're going to have. Don't laugh when I say editor at Marvel. Maybe Hickman's going to bring them under the wing and kind of shepherd them along and help them to find their voice better and it just doesn't work. And you're like, you know what? Maybe I just don't like their voice, and that's fine. I'll just avoid those titles in the future, and I'll avoid that writer in the future. And my final comments, the final thing I want to say is about this Hickman tweet that he sent out regarding that, you know, there's going to be an X title for everyone, and that you don't have to read all of them. There's to keep up with what's going on. And then one of them that came out, I think the day before he sent that tweet out, was about X Factor. And X Factor is dealing directly with the Resurrection Protocols. The Resurrection Protocols, if you were a big fan of House of X, Powers of X, is something that you wanted to know about, something you wanted to know more about. But in all honesty, they shouldn't have to bring in another book. They shouldn't have to bring in more books. They have 6 titles going on. If you can't fit that in with doing 6 titles and shipping those titles twice a month, you're doing something wrong. I think you're going to see a massive slip in sales for the ongoing titles here shortly. I think it's already happening. Rob Liefeld was on talking about it today, talked about the major slip in sales on Marauders and Excalibur. And I think you're going to see that across the board. But then they'll try to pump that back up with new number 1s, and it'll just slide back up. They're not in the business of sustaining titles anymore. And that stinks, because House of X and Powers of X grew. It from the first initial ship to number 6 on both House of X and Powers of X, it grew. It went through the roof. And you're not going to see that on any of these other titles, unfortunately, except for maybe X-Force, because Benjamin Percy and Joshua Cassara are absolutely amazing, and they're really cool dudes. And if you're not buying X-Force, I highly recommend it. Alright guys, so I want to hear what you guys think down in the comments. What do you think about all these additional titles? I'm excited about Wolverine. I'll admit that. I'm going to be picking that up. But X Factor, Children of the Atom, Hellions, whatever. They'll have some more, and I know I'm drawing a blank right now on them. X-Core, and of course the Chip Zdarsky 4X book. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there's going to be a new Cable number 1. I mean, what do you think about this gluttony of titles? And is it too much? Am I making too much of this? I won't review a book I don't buy, and I hate that, because I was really trying to keep up on most of the X titles, and I'm getting to the point where I'm just not going to be able to do it. Anyways, guys, really that's me venting. Tell me what you think down below. Which titles are you actually looking forward to? Which ones are you not going to touch with a stick? Let me know down in the comments, guys. I sincerely appreciate you watching, for letting me get this out. And guys, just for supporting the channel the way you have. I continue to just be blown away by the growth we have on this channel. Thank you for everyone who takes the time to share this, either on Twitter or Facebook. Sharing my videos is a great way to help. Of course, leaving a like and hitting that bell for notifications are also huge. Getting a lot of views in that first hour or so is really key to a video success, guys. Anyways, I appreciate everyone out there that's listening. And that's all I got, guys. Real Comic Stacks. Out.